Welcome, candidates. You will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. As a reminder to the public, we have cleared the questions from the previous round. So if you want to ask Q&A questions now while the candidates go through their predetermined questions, the same three that were given to the area reps, you'll be able to ask new questions. We will select three of those. Okay. With that, John, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is John Steary. I've been a Palms resident for 8 years. I'm an international business and economics major from the University of New Hampshire. I studied for 1 year in Hong Kong at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And I believe that our community needs to come together at this moment more than ever. We just came out of a pandemic, and the one thing that we have is each other. This community I've appreciated for many years. I've watched it grow and thrive. And to be honest, in this last year, I've watched it fall apart a little bit when we should have come together. I've seen crime increase in the neighborhood. I've seen us become a speed bump on people's commute to the big tech companies in Culver City. And I've seen people not looking out for each other and being neighborly. And at the end of the day, I think we need to come together and be better neighbors, work together to improve all common issues that we have, and just be open, honest, and friendly with one another like one would in a small neighborhood community like Palms. This is a beautiful community. It's my favorite neighborhood that I've ever lived in Los Angeles. And I really don't plan on leaving. And I hope that through the neighborhood council, we can work to promote ourselves, to publicize the neighborhood council to begin with, and get community involvement in making the place better for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Randell, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Randell Irving Jr., and I am running for president of the Palms NC. I lived in Palms for about 10 years and got involved in the Palms NC when I attended my first meeting in 2017. Then I decided to become a volunteer, and from there, I was soon appointed to the board in 2018 as the community-based organization representative. I helped to coordinate the third annual Palms Community Day, and I invited local officials, artists, businesses, performers, nonprofits, schools, students for our block party that we had, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to getting back to things like that very soon. As vice president and chair of outreach, I work to build our engagement on social media. Outreach is one of the most important things that we can do to make sure that businesses and residents know about the Palms NC as a resource. I recruit board members, volunteers, and other folks to be involved with the NC. I also formed and co-chair the Racial and Social Justice Committee, which has been responsible for many CISs, many letters, and communication regarding our desires and our stance on issues involving racial and social justice in the city, like disarming park rangers. Under my leadership, we'll continue to support neighbors who are unhoused, advocate for renters, seniors, children, and families. We'll champion green initiatives and sustainability, and we'll make our neighborhood safe, clean, and fun. We'll ensure that LA knows who Palms is and that our council person listens to our community. The Palms NC is one of the strongest NCs in the system and definitely a neighborhood council to watch. I'm super proud of the work the Palms NC board and committees have done in the past 2 years, and I look forward to furthering that work. I'm a leader who cares deeply about Palms and with a demonstrated track record of success in and beyond the Palms community. I hope that you will vote for me and join me in leading Palms forward. Will Randell for Palms NC president, vote for the Palms Forward slate. You can find us at palmsforward.com or at Palms Forward on social media. Thanks.
Thank you, Randell. So with that, we will be moving into our question and answer session. We will be going through the same 3 questions that the area rep B answered, as well as questions from the public. So again, if you're on Facebook Live, you can ask a question there and we will forward it on to our candidates here, or ask a question down below in the Q&A button down at the bottom. So with that, John, how would you, what are your ideas for improving quality of life in Palms? How do you plan to work with the Palms NC board and other members to advocate for local Palms issues within the city of LA, with the city of LA?
Thank you, Jeremiah. I think first off, it's publicizing the fact that the Palms Neighborhood Council exists in the first place. I know that you guys are doing a great job thus far in developing outreach and improving the community, but to be honest, I've lived here for 8 years and this is the first year that I knew you guys existed. And so if the people and the residents of Palms don't know you're here for them, there's not really much we can do to help them. And so providing an outreach and publicizing our existence, I think, will be the first initiative improving Palms, because we need to hear what neighbors are concerned with. I think that honestly, some speed bumps would be a huge improvement in Palms. I've seen cars drive 100 miles down Hughes Avenue. I've seen people almost get hit. I've seen people looking at their phones. I've seen people disregarding each other in our community and just driving through and treating us like we don't exist. I think that Palms is a beautiful place that needs to be recognized as such. And if you elect me as president, I will do everything in my power to do just that and work with the NC to bring us together, publicize our existence, and bring about needed change to community members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Randall, same question. What are your ideas for improving quality of life in Palms, and how do you plan to work with the NC board and other members, other boards on the NC to advocate for local Palms issues within the city, with the city of LA?
Yeah. So I think that I agree with my my opponent that first we need to listen to what Palms residents want, right? So you can't improve a community for folks if you don't know what they're looking for. So it's continue to engage with board members, with our area reps, with our residents, with our businesses to find out what do they want to see in Palms as we move forward. It's getting back to community in person. I love virtual community. This is great, but I'm ready to be back in person when it's safe, right? So having block parties, having different kind of events where we come together as a community. From painting murals together, doing neighborhood cleanups, things that we used to do before we were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Increased access to green space and open space. That's something that I know that the Palms community is very much in favor of from my time as an elected official in Palms. Advocating for more things like a permanent slow streets program. I help to bring that program to our neighborhood. It helps to keep us safe while we're engaged in physical activity and kind of slow down the speed in our neighborhood. So making that program permanent in our neighborhood. And I would increase walkability signs, art maps, food maps, business maps, just giving people information so they know what resources they have in Palms. And advocating and voting for policy change in LA and City Hall to make LA a more equitable and just city. I think a lot of the work that we do is with the Palms community, but really part of the Palms NC's mission is to be an advisory committee to our council person. So staying informed around what city council is doing, letting them know what Palms opinions are of those actions, and ensuring and keeping our elected officials accountable.
Okay, thank you, Randall. Our next question, and as a reminder, next question, just plug for the Q&A button down at the bottom. Our next question, what initiatives or events would you like to organize? And as a board member, well, actually, as president, I think you're not actually expected, but which committees would you participate in, and which one would you pick and why? We'll start this one with Randall.
Yeah, I've been involved in committees for quite a while. I lead two committees currently. I'll probably step up on one of those in order to join another. But I'm thinking about a new committee for renters and advocating for those who have needs related to housing. And so making sure that we can advocate for things like rent control, making sure that renters know resources like the Palms NC, but also like HSID and just kind of things when they're going through things like evictions or different things within their living facility. So I think that's going to be a really important initiative for us, especially as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic with the eviction moratoriums and those kind of protections for renters kind of ending soon. I think that Palms in particular will be a vulnerable community because we have so many renters. We can see dramatic impacts on that. So making sure that we prepare for the ending of those supports to make sure that our residents are not vulnerable. We want to do block parties, food truck nights, art walks, food walks. So, I mean, lots of in-person things that take advantage and that really highlight the beauty and the resources that our neighborhood has. I advocate for a more permanent slow streets program, as I mentioned. And I currently on the executive committee. I'm on the Racial and Social Justice Committee. I co-chair that committee. I chair the Outreach Committee. I would leave the executive committee and continue on the Racial and Social Justice Committee.
Okay, thank you, Randall. John, same question. What initiatives or events would you like to organize? And as president, what would you, or as a board member, you'd be required to be on more than one or more Palms NC committees. Which one would you pick and why?
Thank you, Jeremiah. You know, as my opponent, Randall said, he hit a lot of things on the head here. He had a lot of great initiatives, and I agree with most of them. As Markham brought up earlier, I myself has been a victim of an eviction. I have an owner of a house that I live in, single family unit, that working through the system of the laws, they're allowed to build an ADU in the back, start a construction project. And we've lived here for 8 years. Our rent is quite low. And in order to squeeze us out, he's starting a construction project in our backyard during the COVID pandemic when we all are working from home. I think that is highly unfair. I know that the number of other Palms residents have experienced something similar. I've seen a similar house to my own raised at the end of my street to build another luxury apartment. The last thing Palms needs right now is another luxury apartment. We've been talking about homelessness. We've been talking about the struggle of surviving in Los Angeles. I've been so close to going bankrupt in this city. It's insane. You have to grind every single day. And it's not been made easy by the landlords and the owners that have been trying to force us out. I think that we need to really cooperate with the government bodies in place in Los Angeles to make stronger initiatives to protect our currently housed citizens from becoming homeless. If we're trying to fight the homeless problem, the last thing we need is housed residents losing their house and becoming homeless. That's why I myself would like to be heavily involved in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I think that we need stronger initiatives to protect renters from becoming evicted or becoming squeezed out. Markham, the candidate earlier running for Area B, made great points. His owner of the building tried everything possible to squeeze him out because his apartment's rent was lower than the units above him. They thought they could make more money. I think that's incredibly inappropriate. It's a travesty for the citizens of Palms. And it's been too long that we've let the politicians of the city give us lip service at the class of the billionaires that are moving into Culver City and the surrounding areas. I will not let this area become another speed bump on the map of Los Angeles, because we're a beautiful and vibrant community that should be respected as such. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. Our next question, how do you think the Palms Neighborhood Council should work with the LA County and City of Los Angeles to help end homelessness in our neighborhood? And for this one, we will start with John.
Sure. Homelessness is something that we all have seen in Los Angeles. In the 8 years that I've lived here, it has gone from something that was a small issue to something that has become a major, major issue. At the end of my street on Hughes, we saw a homeless person die in a fire in his encampment because he was living there, having a cook fire, burned to death in our neighborhood, dead. I've seen theft in our neighborhood. Our neighbors got broken into. My bicycle was stolen from in front of my house, and the Los Angeles police weren't very helpful. I had to go out, seek my bicycle myself, and recover it. And I think that these kind of issues are systemic and can be addressed by our community by supporting each other, becoming more neighborly, talking with one another, and addressing our problems together. I think that clearly homelessness is a massive issue in the US right now, and it's being proliferated and made worse by business decisions that the city top level politicians are allowing. Something like a couple $2 billion were pumped into the state for homelessness, and once audited, basically no money made it to the homeless. They built like one building. That is disgusting. As was brought up earlier by some of the Area B candidates, I think advocating for use of public space for homeless people would be a great move. We need to move and transition people from drug problems to unemployment into a role where they can get reassimilated in the community, feel loved, feel one, have their mental health issues addressed. And I think that as a council, we can address our neighborhood's issues, communicate with the larger governing bodies, and work as a whole to move people from homelessness to employment, to mental health corrections, and then to hopefully being housed and productive members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Same question to Randall. How would you work with the Palms Neighborhood Council? How do you think the Palms Neighborhood Council should work with the LA County and City of Los Angeles to help end homelessness in our neighborhood?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly daunting challenge. It's a big challenge that we're kind of facing right now. And I think that some of the reasons that it is such a challenge is because it's divided between the city and the county. After attending Civic University, I learned just the way the power is divided up. And so, we do have some conflicts there because of, kind of whose issue, so to speak, homelessness is, right? I think that at the neighborhood council level, there are some things that we can do, but we can't do, we can do some things, but I don't want to, I don't want to posit that we can change this problem on our own because it's much bigger than I think the neighborhood council scope. I think all what we can do is that we can help to identify and help people before they become unhoused, right? So, I mean, there are many, many Angelenos who live, just a paycheck away, or just, an unfortunate medical bill or a circumstance away from becoming homeless, right? And so I think that we have to make sure that we have programs, and we've seen some of those programs during the pandemic. So one of the questions I have as an elected leader is, if the city was able to do these things during the pandemic, why couldn't we do these things previously? And so there've been programs that provided rent support for those who are kind of just needed some short-term help, maybe a couple of months, right? There have been multiple programs that have come through during the pandemic. And so I think that I will push the city to continue supporting Angelenos with programs that support them, like rent, food, services that we saw during the pandemic pop up, right? And I want to make sure they don't go away, because while the pandemic is an emergency, right, many Angelenos are in an emergency every single day, right, outside of the pandemic. And so I think it's really important that we identify and keep people housed who are, in jeopardy of becoming unhoused, and provide resources for that. And also, I think that we have to also look at, the policies and the development of how we got here. So if you look at how freeways are built in Los Angeles, you look at how neighborhoods are divided, racism and privilege underpin a lot of our policies and development. So the only way we're going to undo a lot of this, what we see here, is by leading with equity and justice forward, right? And so, yeah, I'll share that.
Okay, thank you, Randall.
Sorry, was the timer working? I didn't see the timer.
Yeah, the timer, I think, died.
Yeah, it just timed out. I'm gonna let me get it on board real quick.
Thank you. That'll be helpful.
Apologies there, but I think that was time. All right, so with that, we'll be moving into questions from the public, and I will be combining two very similar questions. So what sort of work, or what have you already done for the community while you've been living here in Palms? And for this one, we will start with Randall.
Sorry, can you repeat the question one time?
Question is, while you've already
Can you give me a few minutes to
we'll give one.
Set up? Sorry.
Sorry.
One moment.
One minute. But you can repeat it as I get this set up.
Yeah, I'll say it again, and wait. We'll have to give Tina a moment to get the timer working again. So while you've been, living here in Palms, what have you done during your time to help the people living here, or to help the community, help the people or the community living here? That you already done, things that you've done in the community. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing two questions, and my brain short-circuited. So we'll start that.
Is our timer working now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Should be.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I've done quite a bit to help the Palms community in my time here. A lot of it with the Palms NC. Before joining the Palms NC, was someone who kind of, lived in Palms and kind of spent my time in other places for work and for play. But I really wanted to develop more of a sense of community here and get involved in my community. So I did. And so I've done things like help plant community gardens, help water gardens, help seniors find resources, share things in the pandemic. We created programs just for supporting neighbor-to-neighbor programs, for folks supporting each other, and then also for supporting seniors. We've given money to Palms Elementary School. We have done cleanup. I have done Palms Community Day. I've done a number of projects, and including, I think, the really important CIS communication. So a lot of the events that we've done are great, right? But we have done a lot as a board, and I've done a lot as a board member as part of the Palms NC to make sure that we're advocating for the various needs that Palms residents have and the various interests that Palms residents and stakeholders have. So I've been very, very involved in the Palms community. If you've lived in Palms, you probably have seen me around. If not, especially in the Palms NC, but there are a number of projects that I've done. If you look at the Palms NC annual report, you can see the report online at the Palms NC website. Much of all of that is some of the things I've done as a board member. And so you can look at the report from 2020 and the report from 2019 as other evidence of my work in the community.
Okay, thank you, Randall. Same question to you, John. What have you done while living here to help the people and community of Palms?
Sure, thank you, Jeremiah. I think that my opponent, Randall, is clearly far more qualified and experienced in this department. He's been part of the neighborhood council clearly for quite a minute. And that's something I can't say I have been. Until very recently, I didn't know that it even existed. But what I think I'm bringing is a fresh perspective. And when I've lived in Palms, I've done what I think is most important to any neighborhood, is be neighborly, be friendly, smile, help your neighbors when they need help. I've been a great resource for people on my street, and I hope to expand that to other streets in Palms and get to know the community in a way that currently Randell does. And I would love to reach out further than I currently have with the platform that the neighborhood council would allow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. We have one question, I guess particularly related to the role of presidency. Since its role is especially in leadership for the rest of the neighborhood council, how do you plan on leading the next board? And for this one, we will start with John, since we've been going back and forth.
Sure. Leadership is not something that can be learned. You're born a leader. Some people can try, they can do what they want, they can read books, they can practice, but there's something about leadership that's innately inside of one. It's a willingness to put yourself in front of the crowd and be willing for that moment to lead your community, knowing that the person in front of the herd is the one that gets knocked down first. When you're in the center of the pack inside of mediocrity, you're safe, but there's nothing there that you can help your community members improve with. When you're at the front of the pack, you risk being the top target from everybody, but it's something that you have to be willing to do to drive your community forward. I think that I'll offer a fresh perspective in guiding our board. And I know that unfortunately, we truly, let's all address the issue at hand here. We have no real power from the government. We have no voting power. We have no actual thing, but we're an advocacy group for the neighborhood. But I think that we can do a little bit better than that. Power is not something that people give to you. Power is something that you have to take together. And as a community, if we can combine our voices in a way that hasn't been heard before, I think that we can move beyond a neighborhood council that's organizing small events. And I would love to have a massive block party. I cannot wait for that. And there will be plenty of them. But if we can get our voices together, combined behind single issues, we can be more powerful than we've ever been before and advocate for actual change and see actual effects happen. And I think that that is what the neighborhood council needs right now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Randell, same question. How would you lead the next neighborhood council board?
Yeah, great question. I love this question. I would do things, I think, similarly to how I've been leading the Palms board already as vice president for the past 2 years. So one thing that folks will know about my leadership is that I do things with folks, not to folks. So in order for us to develop where we're going as a board, right, that's going to be something that the board determines along with the community starting in July. Right. So I think that I have some ideas that I like to see. I know that folks on my slate also have ideas. The community has ideas, and other candidates have ideas. So it's about kind of, setting our vision together. I lead by listening. I lead by developing a vision and by collaborating to achieve that vision. I believe in empowering and supporting other leaders. And so there are a number of folks, including my slate, that I've been able to bring into onto a team to accomplish something. I brought in board members, I brought in volunteers, I brought in committee chairs and folks. I'm really, I have experience, and I'm good at bringing others and working with others. I like to work collaboratively. I love working on teams. The Palms NC is a big team, and it's a big community. I like community. I've experienced community building in my work professionally. I was a school leader, and I'm now a district leader. So I've led communities, I've led schools. I'm used to leading organizations that have lots of things involved, from the funding pieces to supporting pieces to making sure that you can advocate and kind of hear the different issues that different constituents have and move the community forward. So I'm a leader who I hope that you'll find that I'm someone that you can come and talk to. So you can reach out to me on social media if you don't have my information already, right? And folks know that you can kind of stop me on the street in Palms, tell me your ideas. I've had many conversations with neighbors and residents about different things by just walking up to the farmers market or just walking in the grocery store and passing someone. So I'm someone who is going to be empowering, right? I want to empower others. It's not about kind of having that leadership be held by just a few. But I think by empowering everyone to be involved, that's how we get to a better community.
Okay, thank you, Randell. So I'm going to move to one of our backup questions here. How would you support equity for Palm stakeholders, whether it be promoting racial or social justice or affordable housing, etc.? So in terms of equity. So with that, we'll give that one to Randell first.
Learning first, right? So I think that, understanding what does equity look like. I think there are different definitions of equity depending on what you're talking about or who you're talking to. I think my status as someone who is a minority in our community. I grew up, a minority, I'm a Black man. And so I think equity is something that's very important to me personally, which is why I started our committee on racial and social justice, right? So we have a space to talk about things, we have a space to learn, we have a space to develop solutions, and we have a space to come together as a community to define how do we begin to solve some of these challenges, and how do we ensure that everyone's involved appropriately, and that we can make sure that those who've had less privilege, we have a space to speak up. And so if you notice, my slate is a very diverse slate, both in every way that you can measure in diversity, we're diverse. And so that's super, super important to me. It's also important to me that we uplift communities. And so you have to do so by understanding what privilege I have and what privilege other folks have. And then really, I think for me, it's really, listening to and advocating for and looking out for those who are most vulnerable in our communities. So we have many other folks who might be considered vulnerable, from LGBTQI and trans folks and Black trans women to children, right, to folks who are differently abled, to folks who might be unhoused. So I think that's really making sure that we are empathetic, that we're listening, and that we're keeping our ear close to the ground so we know how to best help people. I think you can best help people by partnering with them and defining what that help looks like.
Okay, thank you, Randell. Same question to you, John. How would you support equity for Palm stakeholders, whether it be promoting racial and social justice or affordable housing, et cetera, along those lines? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I think the most important thing to consider is that we have one mouth and two ears. So we need to use our ears and listen to the people of Palms. We need to spread the word that the neighborhood council exists and that we're here to be a listening ear to your problems. Until we really understand the diverse needs of our highly diverse and talented community, there's no way that we can truly help them. I think that we have an interesting community. Like, there's a lot of singles, families, small households, and there's also a lot of high density households. We also have a very transient community. We have people that live here for maybe short-term rent, maybe 1 year, maybe they love it and they stay. All these people have very diverse set of issues that need to be addressed. Some people need security, some people need to be heard, some people need helping hands, some people need help off the street, some people need mental health help. The city drives people crazy. It's one of the most stressful environments that exist in the country, maybe in the world. It's high pressure. The thought of becoming homeless is at the corner. We have a daily reminder from the people on our corner that we may give $1 as we pass by, or maybe even offer a conversation. And we need to think about them, and we need to think about everybody else. There's businesses that need to be heard. There's people that are sleeping outside in front of their businesses and stopping the businesses from being able to operate. So while we need to look out for the homeless people, we need to also look out for the business interests. We need to be able to move this very diverse and difficult, complex problem in a way forward that helps all community members and stakeholders feel wanted and feel like they have equity and a stake in the community. And by reaching out, talking with every single person that we can, hearing what their concerns are and aligning interests, I think that the neighborhood council can be a lot more effective than it currently is in bringing us together and forward into a positive Palms that the whole neighborhood and the whole city knows and respects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. With that closes our Q&A sessions. We had 3 pre-determined questions and 3 questions from the public. We'll now move into our closing statements. So each candidate will be given 30 seconds for a closing statement. And we'll start with John.
All right. Thank you, Jeremiah. Again, my name is John Steary. I'm running for the Palms Neighborhood Council president. And while I don't have much experience with the neighborhood council, I do offer a fresh perspective, and I have an energetic commitment to changing our neighborhood in a positive way. I've had leadership roles throughout my entire life, and I believe that my diverse set of knowledge and skills could help move us forward in a direction that includes everybody, makes everybody feel welcome, and at the end of the day, makes us happy, healthy, and a productive community. Thank you. Vote John Steary.
Thank you, John. Randell, you have 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Yeah, I served in one of the few people who've served in many different capacities on the board. So I've been a volunteer, I've been a committee chair, I've been a representative, and I've been an executive board member. I was the first Black the first Black vice president and would like to be the first Black president of Palms. I'm a dedicated leader with a proven track record of working within the Palms community and with the board. My experience in leadership, my dedication to learning, my commitment to working with you will help to make me the best candidate for the Palms NC. I have the relationships, knowledge, the drive, and the commitment to ensure that the Palms NC continues to be the best NC in the system. Vote Randall Irving and vote for Palms Forward.
Okay, thank you, Randall, and thank you both candidates for your answers and your vision clearly for Palms. With that closes our forum for tonight with all the candidates that we've done.